Hello everyone, it's been a while, and I thought I'd start my first video back on the site with a banger of a topic, and that is of the idea of a Rivstar CNH. So, if you don't know, a Rivstar CNH is the first president is when the first president claims RRR. They are always CNH according to Rivstar, who is an intermediate level player, about, an amateur, like me. Um, so yeah, that's his theory. And I know what you're thinking, that a lot of people have these random theories about the best way to play the game, and some of them are just amateurs like me and Rivstar, so who do you trust, and, whatever. And to that, I will say, is it this one? That me and Rivstar have a lot of beef right now. We're kind of mad at each other right now. And there is no reason for me to be biased for anything that he has to say. If anything, I'll be biased against what he has to say, but I'm going to be neutral. Or I'm going to try to be, because that's the kind of person, or the kind of content creator that I want to be. At least in this video anyways. I've definitely made videos shitting on him before. So, now, and I mean the fact that I'm not calling him Rivstar should prove my good faith. And anyways, so now we're going to get to the main topic. Is his thesis that the first president to claim RRR is always CNH? Is this true? And for that, I'm gonna say it's complicated, and to make things easier, I am going to show you a graph. So, oh no, I messed up. Oh no. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this, pretend you don't see it. I don't want to spoil any answers. So, I'll just start from the right then. So, does the Rivstar CNH rule apply if it's a high elo lobby? And, well, the answer is no, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason why the Rivstar claims that the first president to claim RRR is always CNH is because a lot of the time, people who get the Hitler role are very self-conscious of their image, and they don't like to take themselves out early. That being said though, in high elo, high elo players are taught to just play the reds if they need to, not to keep themselves perfect. That there are other ways to get picked than by playing blues and hoping liberal gets RRR, etc., etc. So, like, high elo players are not as self-image conscious, as conscious of their image to a fault, where this rule would apply. It's also worth mentioning that the Rivstar CNH thing applies a lot more to green lobbies than in high elo lobbies. Because in a green lobby, the way greens make decisions on who to pick in HZ is they like to gunpoint the person in conflict, in the first conflict usually, because they don't think Hitler's likely to be there for some reason. Probably because it was in some sort of guide or something like that the first conf never has Hitler, or something like that, and all of the greens just kind of mistakenly pick that up. But that's a very common thing you see in green games, is for, the president to gunpoint to conf, or something like that. Or for the president to pick people based off of whether or not they played blues. And that's kind of why he thinks the Rivstar CNH rule exists for those games, because a green Hitler will be like, well, if I play a red and I don't conf, then I can't be gunpointed, and if I don't play blues, then the kind of president who picks people who play blues won't pick me either. So that's why a lot of Hitlers in, low elo lobbies are a bit more apprehensive about playing that first red and claiming RRR, according to him. So this doesn't apply to high elo lobbies though, because people pick chancellors based off of who they think's the most liberal on social reads. Most fascists just play RRR and they'll claim whatever, regardless of their role. And high elo players are also not nearly as dogmatic. They're not going to just pick into the first conflict every time. They'll pick who they think is liberal regardless of if they're in comp, if they claimed RRR, if they played blues. So there's really no reason for this rule to apply in a low elo lobby, and not a low elo lobby, in a high elo lobby. There's no reason for it to apply. Which is why, if you see someone claim the first RRR in a high elo lobby, the Rivstar CNH rule does not apply. There are no Rivstar CNHs in high elo games. And I'll write that down. And while we're kind of like on this topic, I'm gonna skip over to here. This left one, this question that asks, does the Rivstar CNH rule apply if they know what a Rivstar CNH is? And the answer is, again, no. If you see this player talking about Rivstar CNHs, calling themselves a Rivstar CNH, then they can easily play RRR as Hitler to try and exploit the fact that you'll always pick them. Essentially going one step up of, they're essentially playing on one level higher than the level you're playing on. So that is why, if someone knows what a Rivstar CNH is, they could easily just counter the strategy by playing the first RRR as Hitler. Claiming RRR first as Hitler, rather. So, we now have one last chance for Rivstar to be right. And it's this middle tier. Oh, not tier, this middle section. And does the Rivstar CNH rule apply if it's a 1600 slider and there are lower, and there are no other high elo players in it besides for yourself? And the answer to that is yes. Yes. Yep, it does. And here is why. The reason why it does is for the same reason I mentioned earlier. Green logic. To elaborate, a green liberal will pick a chancellor if they either played a blue or they were a gunpoint into the first conflict for some reason. So, most green Hitlers have experience playing a red and then having all of the players call them fascists because RRR always equals fascism according to Greens. Like, it's stupid logic, but that's the way liberals play. And when all green liberals play like that, you have to play around that. So, green liberals will never pick a chancellor that plays the first red and doesn't comp. They will never pick someone who claims RRR because they always think that it's better to gunpoint a conflict to solve it, or to pick someone who has played a lot of blues. So, that means that, Hitlers who want to get picked or to have a chance of getting picked are like, oh wow, if I claim RRR here, then there's no chance at all that I'll ever be picked because a stupid green liberal will just pick someone who played blues or who conflicted. And yeah, and that's because social reads don't really exist in low elo lobbies. Like, if you're like a high elo player, you can claim RRR and then just sound really liberal in chat to get picked. You can't really do that in a green lobby because they don't really use social reads. They just kind of say, he played blues, lib, or first conflict, I'm gonna gunpoint into them so that I can see who's the liberal in it and who's the fascist, etc. So, like, Greens are not going to social read you if you play RRR, if you claim RRR. What they're going to do is just say, oh, he claims RRR, I'm just going to ignore him for the rest of the game. So, that is why Hitlers who are green will be like, wow, every time I've claimed RRR as Hitler, I've not been picked. I've lost. So they're gonna start thinking, well, claiming RRR doesn't work, but I see people who conf and play blues get picked sometimes, and they're gonna start doing that instead. And that is why I think that in the lobbies that are 1600 or lower, and sometimes a bit higher, like 1610, 1620, basically with almost all bad players and no high elos besides yourself, this logic works pretty well. And yeah, I think it's solid. Good job, Rivstar. Just kind of add a final note. It should be obvious, but there's no such thing as a Rivstar CNH if 4 blues have already been played and then they claim RRR because... Well, is that true? Oh boy, that's a complicated one. And you know what? I just thought that now, and we're gonna do some thinking freestyle. What? Oh no, the font. We're already played. And now this is a toughie. Because what it means is that the Hitler no longer has the option of playing the blue to look more liberal. They now have to either conf or play RRR. And this is tough. This is actually very, very tough. And, what I'm going to say is that I'm gonna say that it probably... Oh gosh, this is very, very hard. And with that, I'm just going to say, like, honestly, I do not know. This is the edge of my knowledge. I don't know if it does or not if 4 blues are played before the RRR. So, if you see someone, like, play that, there's really no way to know. I think it varies on a case-by-case basis. Some green liberals will pick into the first conflict still. They'll still gunpoint the first conflict to solve it. But other greens will be like, oh, there hasn't been a conflict for this long? I bet they're playing all these blues to look more, to appear more liberal as Hitler. They probably don't know who their fascists are, which is why they're playing all these blues. Like, some greens will say that and will think that. There are some greens who are capable of saying that. So, I'm going to say that I don't know for sure. I think that there are cases where it could be beneficial for a green Hitler to conf, depending on who's likely to get a seed. At the same time, though, it could also just kill any chance of them getting picked if they make that argument. Why is the player in 1-5 playing why is the fascist in 1-5 playing so many blues? If a green president thinks that, they're gonna be like, oh, they must be Hitler. So, you might not get picked for that. So, for this, I'm going to say that I don't know / it varies on a case-by-case basis. Because there are some greens who are genuinely, like, dumb enough, well, maybe not dumb, that's the wrong word, new enough to go, oh, just gunpoint to the first conf, ignore every other factor but the game, la 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 la. And then they'll do that and they'll lose. Like, yeah, that kind of green exists. They do. But at the same time, there are also liberal green presidents who are capable of being like, hey, why is the fascist in here playing so many blues? You know, there's no reason for them to do that unless they're Hitler. And that leads to problems for the Hitler who wants to conf. Because there's really no way of knowing if you're going to get a total idiot green, or new green rather, or a green who actually is capable of using some logic, who gets the SC. It varies on a case-by-case basis. Whereas I feel here, not here, which one is it? In this middle rule, in this middle section, like 90% of greens at least will do one of the two things: pick a blue president, or pick a blue president or chancellor, or pick someone who is in the first conflict, or maybe some other conflict. But yeah, so like 90% of greens aren't picking someone who claimed RRR. But for this other example, if it's after 4 blues are played and someone finally claims RRR, then it's a toss-up. So, for that particular instance, I will say, No, this rule doesn't apply. It's not consistent enough. There are no Rivstar CNHs after 4 blues have been played. And that is my take. It's final, and because I talked that out, even though I talked it out live here and instantly, I'm pretty confident with that claim that it's not reliable enough to say that there's a true Rivstar CNH rule for someone who claims the first RRR after 4 blues have already been played. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Bye.